Hello there and welcome back to the Aqua Open Source YouTube channel. My name is Anis Urlichs, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can generate different compliance reports for Trivy image scans, Trivy AWS scans, and Trivy Kubernetes cluster scans. In this tutorial we are going to use the Trivy CLI. However, if you're running Kubernetes, you could also install the Trivy operator and then access compliance reports in your Kubernetes cluster through Kubernetes native resources, CRDs, from the Trivy operator. Now in this case, since you're using the Trivy CLI, make sure you have the CLI installed locally. So you should be on Trivy version 0.43.1, the latest. Once we have Trivy installed, we can head over to the documentation section, and here's a section called Compliance Reports. Be aware that this is still an experimental feature, meaning it might change without backwards compatibility. Now here you can see that compliance scanning is available through the 3 different scan targets, through Trivy image scanning, AWS service scanning, and Kubernetes cluster scanning. Now in Trivy, we have different scan targets. So those are, for example, configuration, Trivy config, Trivy file system for scanning your code, a Trivy image for scanning your container images, Trivy AWS for scanning your AWS services, Trivy K8s for scanning your Kubernetes cluster. So these are all scan targets, resources that you can scan for security issues with Trivy. Now the compliance scans are available for image, AWS, and K8s. You can find further information on performing compliance scans for those different targets here in this section. So open, for example, the Docker section. You can see that for Docker we have CIS scans available. Now in the space there are different bodies, different entities that produce best practices, like list of best configuration that you should follow. Those are recommendations, and those recommendations can be transformed into checks. And these checks can then be applied to your cluster to verify whether you're following those checks, those best practices, or not. And those are ultimately what those compliance scans do. So for Trivy image scanning, we have the CIS reports. Then for Trivy AWS scanning, we have CIS benchmarks. Now in this tutorial, we're going to use Trivy Kubernetes scanning and produce compliance scans for our Kubernetes cluster. To follow this tutorial, you need to have Trivy installed, as just shown, and you need to have access to a Kubernetes cluster through kubectl, for example. Now the usual Kubernetes cluster scan would look something like this. Trivy K8s, you want to scan a Kubernetes cluster, -- report summary, because you want to have a summary report, and the format is by default the table format. You could also have a JSON format or different formats to have the scan reports in. Now, once I perform the scan, I'm gonna have access to the security report of the different resources across my cluster. Now, once it's completed, you can see the different scan reports that Trivy produced. So, for example, RBAC assessment, infra assessment for your infrastructure scans, and accessing your different workloads for vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, and exposed secrets. These are all information that you can get through the Trivy CLI. Now, if we want to perform compliance scans, we can use the same command that we just used to scan our Kubernetes cluster for security issues, and we can add -- compliance equals K8s NSA, and this will now produce an NSA compliance report. As you can see, this will produce a scan report in a table format of the different checks that have been passed or performed on your Kubernetes cluster. Whether they failed or passed is a different question. Now you can use the same command but change NSA to CIS to produce a Kubernetes CIS compliance scan. As you can see, this is now our CIS compliance scan of our cluster, also in table format. Here you can see the different specifications and then whether you passed or failed. Since this is a kind Kubernetes cluster, I expect most of these scans to actually fail, since this is just an example demo cluster and not an actual production ready cluster. Now, if I would want to have the detailed information, I could change report to all, and I will receive the detailed information of my CIS compliance scan. And this will then provide you with the detailed information of the different checks that have been performed on your Kubernetes environment. As always, if this video was useful, please give Trivy a star on GitHub. It would mean a lot to myself as well as to all of the contributors who make Trivy possible. Also, if you enjoyed this video and you want to make sure that other people see it as well, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for upcoming videos. All of the resources used within this video are linked below in the description. I hope to see you in one of our upcoming videos. Have an amazing day. Bye bye.